everyone. My name is Sonya. I'm the host for this community conversation for this month. And as y'all know, it's Women's History Month. But for me personally, I feel like we should be celebrated every day. Not just a month is not enough for us. So we came together to reflect on being leaders in our community and in surrounding areas. Leadership in Color, the Homegirls edition, is all about us connecting, building, and really talking about sisterhood. The more that we support each other, the more that we can all accomplish. So I specifically reached out to Mel, Brandy, Ciara, and of course Toni to be a part of this amazing event. And I hope that you guys enjoy the community conversation that we have this month. Toni, take it away.
Yeah, so hi everyone, I'm Toni. I'm the program coordinator for Color Compton. I do a lot of work in South Central. So I do a lot of work in the community outside of Color Compton, and I'm just really excited. This is not Sonya and I's first, situation. We feel really passionate and strongly about Black and Brown unity, especially like amongst women. I feel like there's a lot of rhetoric around like what being a homegirl, what sisterhood means, and I feel like people throw out those buzzwords, but at the end of the day, a lot of people don't like live and walk in that light. So we just wanted to create a safe space today to just have conversation and just enjoy each other's company. A lot of people have messaged me letting me know that they're going to come in a little late, so hopefully it's not too distracting. But yeah, we're going to go ahead and get started. And shout out to Abigail Lopez Bird, the founder of Color Compton, for allowing us to just flourish in the space and have a safe space. So yeah, ladies, you ready? Okay, awesome. Let's get started. So first, I know a little bit about two of you, a lot of it about one of you. So I would just like for us to go one by one and just tell me a little bit about like who you are. And I know that's a big ask to sum your whole life and persona into a few sentences, but as best as you can.
Okay, so I'm Mel the Boss. I'm an artist, muralist from Compton. I still live in Compton, born and raised. I basically do all forms of art. I do digital art, painting, drawing, murals. I've been doing it since I was 10. I took my first art lesson, and I just kept doing it. And I went to school for studio arts, and I was like, let me freelance. So I started freelancing about 5 years ago. And that's what I've been doing. I'm sure you've seen my work here in Compton. I would say my most popular painting is the painting at Patria Coffee. And I've worked with other artists here in Compton to do murals. And yeah, I have 2 paintings in the hallway here. So that's...
Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Brandy. I'm a photographer born and raised in Los Angeles, California. I started photography probably at a young age. I'm not sure what the exact age was, but very heavily influenced by my dad, who always gave me like disposable cameras and then developed them for me. And that led up to high school, and that's when I started to take it pretty seriously. My work right now, it just focuses on women of color, beauty, confidence. It's raw. I feel like it's raw because I shoot on all film, so if you know, you know. But yeah, that's me, and I'm happy to be here, so thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sierra Innovadora J. Ortega Moore. Oh my gosh. So I am a spoken word poet, right? I rap, and I'm also a community organizer because I have my own nonprofit. I'm from Inglewood, California. A little bit about me. I'm Blaxican. I think like that's where a lot of my passion and where my projects come from. Just trying to not only promote Black and Brown, right, of like the monoracial identity, but through that I started noticing I was kind of getting myself lost, right, of just having this intersectional body that is within many realms of this space of being Blaxican, of being also a African American Latina, Afro Latina. So just kind of exuberating that through my art any way possible, and kind of mending all my roads together of being an educator, of being in education, and coming from Inglewood and really not coming from much, what's affordable, what's accessible. So that's a little bit about me. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm so excited to be sharing space with you. You're all really incredible. So my next question is open-ended, so if it calls to you, please feel free to answer. I would like to know if any of you can share a personal anecdote or story that highlights the importance of unity and sisterhood in leadership. Let me know if you need me to repeat it as well.
Yeah, please.
Can you share a personal anecdote or story that highlights the importance of unity and sisterhood in your leadership journey? Like, can you think of any women who inspired you or supported you along the way?
I'll jump in. Okay, so for sure, just throughout my life, my mom has always inspired me. My mom has always supported me. I think coming from a space of, again, an environment of color, right? Not having much, coming from a space of me having to always, who am I? What race am I, right? But my mom has always been that person to ground me, right? When I'm doing my events, I've noticed, ooh, girl, you don't know how to ask for help, right? My mom is always there to support me. That's my best friend. She's my rock. When the times where I'm like, dang, none of my friends understand me, and I'm like, no one understand me. I'm like, hold on, like my mom's right there, right? And I will always give my mom this applaud of being a brown woman that really, I don't know, just came with the tools by God to raise like Black children. So me being a Black girl, as also a brown girl, but I can't help how I look phenotypically. I can't help how I have to navigate through society, right? So being this Black Mexican, right? My mom has always told me that I am both, right? She is, I think, the embodiment of sisterhood and being a strong woman that pushed me for education, that has pushed me to follow my dreams. I think a lot of the times things that I have pursued, I just came from my mom, girl, just do it, right? And I think to my whole life, I've only really had Black and brown women to motivate me, whether that was my grandma, my tias. And I tell people all the time, I'm like, this Black girl couldn't have even existed in the United States if it weren't for my grandma crossing the border by herself, So I think that is just my everlasting story of women supporting women, and my mom knows I have her, so I'm grateful to have had that in my life, if anything.
That's so beautiful. Nice.
Thank you.
Would anybody else like to share to this question? No pressure. I got plenty more than I can. Okay, so we can move on to the next one. What strategies have you found effective in navigating and overcoming like any barriers, systemic barriers that have disproportionately affected either personal to you or women of color in leadership as a whole? So what strategies have you found effective in navigating your industries and your path?
I would say probably for me, just a little backstory on one of the companies that kind of influenced my work. Believe it or not, I was very influenced by the company called Brandy Melville because in high school, I went to an all-Catholic high school located in Santa Monica, and we were located on 7th Street, and the store was on 3rd Street. So going to school there, it's all predominantly Caucasian students. And so they were the ones that pretty much put me on to what Brandy Melville was. And I really liked the company because it felt like a female kind of like hub or like club. And my main goal, I wanted to work there. My main goal was to come on as a photographer and incorporate women of color because I wasn't seeing that on their page. So long story short, I got the job in customer service. It wasn't long, but I didn't get a position as a photographer, and I felt really bummed out because, I felt like they needed that in their company. I felt like their company could have been bigger. If they had more women of color, they probably had a beautiful dark-skinned girl. Her name is Autumn Henry, who's beautiful, but they always use her, and she was that one token girl. So I just felt like, dang, I kind of missed my mark. But I remember going back to my mom, and she was just like, why don't you just shoot the girls that you want and kind of create your own thing? And I just thought it was kind of stupid at the time, because I'm like, I don't have the girls, I don't have the audience that they have. But I think that was kind of like just a lesson for me to not kind of hold me back, or not wanting to do something with a company. I can do it on my own. So I feel like that was a little kind of hurdle that I had to get over. But I would say to anyone, if you want to do something, just do it. Just put yourself on. You don't have to go to a white company or anything to prove your point. You could do it within yourself. So yeah.
Man, can someone put that on a t-shirt? I
Yes.
can do it on my own.
Yes.
Period.
And I want to add to that. Like, I personally believe in whenever it's rejection, it leads to redirection. And when those moments happen, everything happens for a reason. Because I feel like that was your moment to break into what you're doing now, and look at the amazing things you're doing. If anything, now they're going to come knocking at your door. So always just look at it as redirection for where you're supposed to go.
You blew up.
So my next question is, how can allyship be encouraged and strengthened between women of color across all different ethnic backgrounds? That's a heavy one.
Yeah.
Can you repeat it one more time?
Yeah,
Of
please.
course. How can allyship be encouraged and strengthened between women of color across all different backgrounds?
I think it could be like more curated amongst all backgrounds, like when we actually sit down and express our differences, right? And not in a sense of like, oh, like, y'all go through this and like, no, like just literally expressing like, this is my culture, right? And then through that, you start to sense that there's so many similarities, right? Because when we stay focused on our differences of like trying to like one up someone, or I think it kind of goes back into like your last question, Toni, of getting over that hurdle. I for sure have gone through that, right? And I find it ironic because I usually go through it with my black side and my brown side. I'm like, I'm both. What you mean, right? But I think when we are able to just sit down and have a conversation about like what we're passionate about, what makes us beautiful, or, this is actually what we go through, right? You start to see, okay, like this is what we go through like systematically, but then there's so many like similarities of the household. Like I'm always thinking about like this idea of like, oh, like all black men are bad, or like all black women this, right? And I hear that with my black community, but then I go to my brown community, I hear the same concepts, right? Or, with maybe the Asian community. So it's very like, there's so many similarities. I think we can only get to a point of understanding that is if we literally speak about the differences, right? And like not putting this layer of toxic positivity over it, or also noticing that we are equal people, but we are not equal, we are made equally, right? But we're not equal to each other. There's different paths to get to what everyone wants: love, support, happiness, right? So I think that's what we have to do. We have to not be afraid of conflict, right? And put your best foot forward. Like, not everything got to be beef. Like you can move, I think it's conversation, this genuine conversation.
Yeah, right. It's not even that complicated. It's crazy. Would anybody else like to add? I had a quick thought. I was just thinking about, so part of my job here at Color Compton is to help develop curriculum for the students. And we just had a class last Monday with my art abolitionist incubator students, group of high school students, just educating them on their histories and their cultural, and how, teaching them how they choose to identify and why it's so important. And we just went over this concept of ethnocentrism, which a lot of young students don't know. I mean, even my grown self, I just learned about ethnocentrism like a year and a half ago. So for those who don't know, ethnocentrism is kind of like when someone from another culture is doing something, just an example, and you think it's wrong. or like, oh, they're eating this way, they're talking loud on the phone. But in fact, there's nothing wrong with it. They just have a cultural difference. But that ethnocentrism comes in when there's that judgment piece of like, oh, they should be doing X, Y, and Z, but it's just simply a cultural difference. And I think to your point, just having conversations about those differences. It's so funny. My first year as a resident advisor at the university, one of my first mediation meetings between students was this one girl was like, she's so loud, like she has mental problems, she keeps banging her head. Like, this was an Asian student, and I asked the student, she was like, my weave is itchy, so yeah, I'm gonna be banging. But that's just like such a small thing that makes like a huge difference. She just didn't have that understanding. That she was absolutely not crazy. Girl, sure, her scalp was just itchy. It wasn't even that serious. So yeah, just thinking about that. But the next question I have for you all are, and Mel, I wanna, you already know I'm a single you have. I wanna ask you specifically, like, what challenges that you have faced on a personal level, and how you've been able to overcome them. Like, just as a woman of color, like in leadership, pursuing the things that you're doing, have you faced any challenges, and how have you been able to overcome those?
Challenges that I've faced, I would say when I first got into mural painting, I would usually work with guy painters. The first like 2 years of mural painting, I would paint with guys. Like, the gigs were just usually collaborative, and I would say at least more than like 4 or 5 times, like on a job site, someone would come and like look at us paint, and they would ask me if I was their girlfriend helping them. Yeah, and at first I thought it was funny, like, oh, I get it, like people aren't used to seeing like girls painting or like on a mural site. And like at first I used to laugh it off, and then it got to the point where I was like, I can do this by myself, and I'm gonna take my sister out to paint with me. Even though my sister had no painting experience, I was like, I'm gonna make this a girls thing and like teach her and just go from there. And yeah, I mean, I feel like that was the push that I needed to like be able to do it myself and push myself and yeah, I mean, it came in that way, but.
Yeah, how was that process for you, like emotionally, mentally? Was it something that like it was just like a light switch, like you were just fed up and then the next day you just decided? Was it like a slow burning process for you?
I think I got fed up on one particular project where I got it and I hired an assistant that was a guy, and someone came and told me the same thing, and it's like, that's my assistant, like why do people think that I'm the girlfriend, you know? I think that was like my turning point where it was like, I'm gonna try to not paint with guys anymore and try to do it on my own. And yeah, and I feel like even as an artist, like when I go into gallery spaces, into museums, you don't really see female painters, or like if there is like a show, it's usually like 7 guys and like 2 ladies that they're showing. So yeah, I would say like in the art space, it's still like that. You don't really see a lot of women being highlighted, especially in like museums. These are all things that I think about. Even in public art, most of the time it's not like I would say that it's mostly guys that are painting it. Even when it comes to art crews and like street art, there's usually communities, it's usually guys. Yeah.
It's so funny because, and I'm looking at you, Abby, because I'm just thinking, the whole time she said that, my first reaction was to be like, no, there's not. I can name like 30, but I'm forgetting. This is in our little bubble. This is like Compton, Long Beach, Gardena, Inglewood, like South Central. And like, as someone who personally never goes out to Hollywood or like downtown, I forget that like once you leave that bubble, like the safety and the security and like the allyship, it's like it dwindles. So yeah, Mel, thanks for sharing. I appreciate that. Let's see. Can you ladies share some personal examples of successful collaborations between Black and brown women in leadership, and how that has led to positive outcomes? So it could be a personal experience of a successful collaboration you had with another woman in leadership, or it could be just examples of them that have like encouraged you and inspired you in any way?
One more time.
Oh, I got you. Note to self, I'll make the question shorter next time. Can you share personal examples of successful collaborations between Black and brown women?
Oh, okay. I used to hold, before the pandemic happened, I used to hold these like link ups, I would call them. But my purpose for that was so that any female can come, they can meet a new face, or if you were shy or if you wanted to shoot, you can meet someone. So I had multiple girls come. It was not just, Asian, it was Black, it was Asian. Just a bunch of girls coming. I probably had maybe like 30 or 40 girls come together. But yeah, just stuff like that. It's just, I feel like it was successful to me because if I'm not shooting them, I at least want them to get to know each other. Especially when I'm like doing group shoots, I like to pair people together. So say for example, I have maybe like 3 or 4 people on the shoot, they don't know each other. I'll have them, like lay on each other's shoulder, like hug and get close, and it can be awkward, but by the end of the shoot, I feel like it's successful because they're asking for each other's Instagrams and all that stuff. So I feel like just kind of pairing people together and making them uncomfortable for that few amount of minutes, I feel like eventually they'll start getting comfortable. So I feel like that was successful. Sorry, but yeah.
That's amazing.
Sorry.
I think a perfect example of like Black and brown coalition amongst women was yesterday, honestly, for me. So one of my friends / mentors, she's worked in Inglewood, Compton, now she at Bellflower, right? And every year, I think it's like her 3rd time, she holds a Girls Empowerment Summit, right? At Dominguez Hills, my school, Go Toro, and Toni's, right? So she holds a Girls Empowerment Summit specifically for high school students, right? And literally, like, her closest friend, that is also like our archives librarian at our school. She is a Mexican woman, a brown Mexican woman, to be specific, right? And they literally hosted this event. They said 2 years ago, a little bit amount of girls. Last year, I hopped on maybe about a good 40, 50. Yesterday, I stepped in. I was a little late. I was like, why is there 125 girls here? From Morningside High School, from Centennial High School, and from Bellflower High. So that was beautiful. Nothing but Black and brown faces. I did a poetry workshop, right? People came and showed like their artwork. They told their stories. Nothing but Black and brown. And I thought that it was so beautiful, right? I'm like, dang, like, this is your legacy. And I'm like, Amalia, like, you just helped her to hook it up completely. And like they will always have each other's back, because at my school, although it is a very predominantly institution of color, and white people are actually the minority, right? A lot of the staff members are still white, right? So I remember Amalia, she told me when Ino had to leave, she was like, I'm sad because no one else looked like me up in here no more, right? But I think they have like some new staff members that are of color. So like that is great for Amalia. But yeah, so shout out to like Ino and Amalia, if you see this one day, right? I think that's a perfect example of Black and brown women coming together for a bigger purpose that's beyond them.
Thank you, Noah. Okay, this one, look, I'm a Gemini too, so I gotta be mindful not to be petty and name drop. Without the pettiness and name dropping, have any of y'all ever experienced someone stealing or not giving due credit for your work? Because I feel like, man, just as a person in general, as an artist in Los Angeles, that's something that I know I personally have experienced. I know a lot of my sisters in arms go through and are currently going through. So have any of you ever experienced someone stealing your work or not giving credit? And how did you navigate that?
I feel like I've gone through that so many times, but what I've realized is that a lot of us might have the same ideas, or we make, mood boards and we come up with these ideas, or we sit on it and never do it, and then we put it in the universe, and then magically someone else does the same thing, and you're like, wait, she ripped me off, but you didn't even execute it, you didn't even do it. Or you might shot something and then a day later someone comes out with the same thing. So not all the time it's copying, it's just that you weren't fast enough. So yeah.
Or maybe, and this is a hard pill to swallow for myself included, but maybe the idea wasn't too original to begin with.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any of you ladies, have you ever had your work stolen?
I've had it happen twice. One time, some guy actually he was from Compton too. He actually took one of my sketches, so I had live sketched, and I didn't put the sketch on a t-shirt. So I used to put sketches on t-shirts, but this specific one I didn't. I just posted, I came to live sketch, and it was actually the MLK monument, which is right here in front of the courthouse. Anyway, he had me blocked, and someone sent me his post, like the screenshot. They're like, oh, this guy took your sketch and he put it on a t-shirt, and he's like asking people for pre-orders. Yeah, and then I remember posting it on my story, and like a bunch of my followers went to his account, and like he ended up taking it down. But that happened, and then I had this little character that I was painting, and someone used it as cover art. I'm not saying I'm the first person that came up with this character, but it had a lot of similarities to mine. And the person who did the cover art, one of my closest friends was his assistant, and my close friend was the one that was like, oh, you were on the mood board, like you inspired this. And it's just like, I knew the guy who came up with the cover art. Like it's like my name could have been mentioned at the table, but it wasn't, So yeah, it's happened, and I'm sure it's going to keep happening because it's art, and people are always influenced by your artwork. So yeah.
I want to chime in too. So I know personally, I know that I go through that, like in the lane of like doing clothing, and it's not just from women. Sometimes it could be men as well. So, but it's just like, I feel like as a woman, we don't get that same just due or that respect being a woman. Just simple as that. But for me, how I take it, I just look at that as inspiration. Like, I used to be bitter about it, but now I'm just like, yo, I'm killing. Like, I'm going crazy right now. Because if y'all see that, like, if I'm on y'all mood board and y'all follow me, that means that I have the secret sauce. So I can mix it up any point I want and switch it up. And people are going to, I feel like after a while, when you, like, lay that foundation and keep showing up, your consumers start seeing it. Like, the outside world starts seeing it. And they'll start calling it out. Like, yo, this is Mel stuff. This is Brandy stuff. This is Ciara stuff. So that's what I'll be on. Like, I'm not fazed by it. You just let your work speak for you. Just keep going. Let your work speak for you.
I love it. Thank you.
I want to add really quickly. I feel like as far as my artwork goes, I don't really feel like I've experienced that, right? Like someone's like stealing like poetry or whatever. But I think community work wise, when I think my first community organizing happened in high school. It was around the time when George Floyd passed away, and I held a gathering or march or protest, whatever you prefer to call it, right, in Inglewood. Don't get me wrong, I did ask one of my friends, right, a guy to help me because he had the bigger like Instagram following at the time. I'm okay, like I got the idea, you just help me get it out there, right? So I was in like 12th grade, and my school found out about it, right? But what I didn't like was that it became like, oh, it is the high school's event. That was not the high school's event. I asked y'all to support, because at the time I was BSU president. I was not a good president. But the point is, like, I asked y'all, I'm like, can y'all show up, right? And even if you guys didn't show up, it still would have been a filled space. So even in like the yearbook, I think I'm overly modest sometimes, right? So I don't like attention. I don't like sometimes the credit. But in my yearbook, it kind of came across like, oh, BS, animal, no, can't say the name, right? The high schools thing, right? And I don't know how I felt about that. So I kind of felt a little like, or I think just I've gone through a lot of like not getting your credit in the educational field, right? Because I work with students, and at my last job, I never got that credit, and I think it really ticked me off, right? And it was a lot of anti-blackness within it, and I felt hurt because it came from my brown side. There was a lot of hierarchy, a lot of me being a young girl, a lot of me being the youngest, right? Never getting credit for the recruitment of students, never getting credit for, creating safe spaces. Never got credit for even just the contribution that I gave to the nonprofit, right? Because I dedicated myself in my job and outside my job, or even when there was very little support at the high school, it was a lot of me doing outreach, right? And it never got credit for it. I was not even getting paid for it. At a certain point, I was going broke out of my passion and love for something. So yeah, I think that was just the everyday struggle. It got me in depression, but I know now it's like I need to love my kids, but I need to also feel supported and appreciated. Yeah.
Thank you, Lola. So how can we create more opportunities for the support, piggybacking off of what Valora said? So how can we, what do you feel like can be done to better support and empower our emerging leaders? Like what support do you need, and what do you think that looks like or might look like?
For us, or just?
I mean, it could be for you personally, it could be in general.
Okay, I think just support by just showing up. Like Shannon showed up. Shannon is
Yeah, definitely.
Shannon is one of the girls that I shot. She's on the wall down below by the hair salon store, and just like I developed a relationship with her just by like reaching out on Instagram and just wanting to shoot her. So I think just it means a lot when people just show up. They don't have to say too much. They'll just do it. So I think it's just simple. Just show up and support. Yeah.
More t-shirts.
Yeah, I would say just like referring your friends. Like if you know someone's doing something and you see an opportunity for them, like refer them, share their work. You can literally just comment or like repost their stuff, even if you can't make it, if you can't purchase something.
I agree. Just the bare minimum sometimes.
Yeah,
Yes.
that can take you far.
Okay, next question is, how do cultural differences within the Black and Brown communities contribute to or challenge the concept of unity and sisterhood in leadership? Say it one more time. That's my last long one, I promise. How do cultural differences within the Black and Brown communities contribute to or challenge the concept of unity and sisterhood?
Who wants to go? Okay. I think because there's so much divide, right? And I think that we never really sit back and be like, hold on, like we have literally been fighting all over the world together, past the United States, right? Whether you're in the Caribbean islands, whether you're in Latin America, right? Even if you're in Europe, they took still native people from the Americas and Africans back to their homelands, right? So therefore, Black and Brown people have always been fighting next to each other, right? Columbus was not the first sailor, right? They're, our indigenous people here, they've seen African sailors, but they viewed them as gods, right? So we've always been next to each other, but I think because of this white institutionalism and slavery and their caste system, right, it has made us fight against each other. Because that's all that we want. Well, not that we want, but that they want, right? That it is intimidating and it is scary if we don't come together. But I think because we don't recognize that, because we have been forced into this very capitalistic mindset. We have been forced into like a rat race. We have been forced into, the strongest will survive. We've been forced into, this is competition, right? Who's gonna get like the last cookie on the table, right? Because of that, we don't collide with each other. We only see each other's differences, right? There's a lot of anti-Blackness, right? There's a lot of anti-Latinidad, right? That we choose to not really look at. We choose not to highlight because something in us feels so inferior to where we have to project this superiority that we really don't feel within ourselves, you know? So I think those are the challenges, right? And then never looking at one's character versus the group that they come from. You know, and just because I'm mixed don't mean nothing. Like I have heard it from both ends. People tend to think, oh, you usually just get it from your brown side. I mean, honestly, growing up now, due to environments I do, but growing up, I got it more from my black side, right? And it was always a struggle to be like, no, I am Mexican. Like, you're not going to tell me that I'm only black, right? So I think that's what it is, you know, and having mixed babies don't cure racism. So yeah, that's what it is to me. I think that's a challenge of who's better because we don't love ourselves.
Ooh. Come on, we can end it right there. Beautiful ladies, do you have anything to add? Right, how do you
I don't that.
And I think to your point, you know, Barbara, I think, yeah, I feel like it really is, I mean, it's not that deep and it really is that deep. I think this is a conversation that Sonya and I have had on a previous live where I was just talking about how, I mean, even past race, like as human beings, I think that we're all wounded in our own different ways. And I think a lot of the times out of just minor or major miscommunication or misunderstandings, people fall out so easily. Like we're so quick to throw our sisters and our brothers away over like the smallest inconveniences. And I think that that's something you touched on earlier, is that we don't have conversations. Like as human beings, it's absolutely impossible, improbable, and inevitable for us to not fall out sometimes or hurt each other, right? And I think that the way that we as individuals deal with the hurt determines like if we're able to thrive in allyship or sisterhood. So I think a lot of times it, you know, there are all these systems like against us, right, and who don't want to see us thrive in community, and at the same time, like a lot of our demise is like the source of our own selves ultimately. So I definitely hear what you're saying, and the educator in me is like Eurocentrism, like you know, like come on. But yeah, I think it's external, but I think it's also absolutely internal as well, because that's something that, you know, this is an open and honest conversation. That's something that I'm working on. I have in the past like ghosted people, and I'd be like, she should know what she did. Like, girl, how's she supposed to know if you didn't communicate that? And I see that a lot, especially in this generation of like technology. Like people are so quick to, you know, some people do deserve canceling. Let's not, you know, that's not a doubt. But there are other situations where I'm like, oh man, like you're putting Shorty on blast when like it really wasn't that deep. Like maybe she wasn't even aware. So I think the whole purpose is conversation. I mean, what we're doing today, right?
I want to chime in too.
Yeah.
So I definitely agree with that point. Like for me, I don't know if y'all can hear it in my voice, but I'm from New York. So like, being from New York, like from the aspect of what you were talking about with black and brown, like the division and separation, me coming out here from New York, it's like night and day. Like back home, having family that's black and brown, like that's a regular day in New York. Like we cohabitate, like we're just like one back home. But then like me seeing that separation, I made it my due diligence to amplify and promote Black Love Brown Pride, to show like we can come together, get things done, and like we're one. And the more that we come together, the more we could get things done. Because like you said, back to your point, it's ops against us, and they're waiting for us to do that. Like we're our own demise, but we should also take back our power. And once we take our power back, and then we do that, it's up. And then to your point of how you said like with it being different, like depending on like how people take things. Me being from New York, I feel like I get a lot of times where it's like, Sonya, you're being too aggressive, like you're being too hard, and it's like, what are you talking about? Like this is regular, like I'm not being too hard. Like this is how we talk, this is how we walk, and I'm not gonna change who I am. Like no matter what, I'm still walking my divine purpose at all times.
Period.
But I feel like you do have to learn your audience.
Yeah.
You gotta learn like your spaces. You gotta learn who you're talking to, and you gotta learn how to operate. So like for me, I definitely agree with that point, and it's like you just gotta be aware of it, but don't change who you are. And I always believe in staying true to that.
Before we move to that, I want to add a little bit to what both you guys said. Yes, you are so right. Sometimes it's like just a miscommunication, right? A lack of, I don't know, even patience. I feel like our generation is very much like, I'm standing on boundaries, I'm standing on business, and then you end up alienating yourself, right? Because we assume people are supposed to know how to treat us, or sometimes we're so caught into our fears, right? And being hurt. I think that's really all it is, right? We don't want to be hurt, so we create defense mechanisms, and we stay stuck in our pride, and even with people that we love, right? And then going to your point, which is very vital, and I think people have to recognize that more, right? Whenever, just with this expansion of trying to put out there that there's literally black and brown lineage that is together, right? I think it has been more of a, not historical, but it's been more historically popular that the East Coast has more like diversity within like Latinidad, right? And just black and brown, just like lineage and heritage, right? The Caribbeans, but somewhere on the West Coast, right? It is not seen like that. Like Mexico is never seen as being black, right? We never consider that we live in LA, like black and brown people literally migrated here, right? At a certain point to create families and foundations, right? So I think just being a mixed person, right? That's a part of like this journey to bring up, like, you know, like, no, it's here too. And kind of even going into that, just on the topic of primarily sisterhood, like amongst like black and brown women. My mom would be telling me all the time, she's like, I hope my friends don't think that, I hope your friends don't think that I fetishize black men, right? Because I have black children. I'm like, Mama, no, you don't. You don't fetishize no black man. I know that you don't, right? But she's like, because it's out there, right? Of non-black women fetishizing black men, right? And I told her, no, Mommy. I said, that does happen, but you're not it, you know? We have conversations like this, and sometimes having to take the layers off of, why is it when a black man goes out of his race, is it a big topic? Why is it a big conversation, right? When a non-black woman dates a black man, why is that a conversation, right? Or why is it you're stealing our black men? Why, right? Because my mom, she's mainly dated black men, right? Because that just kind of was her environment, right? She may feel the same way with a black woman, like, Asian women taking our men, right? Because of her experiences with Asian women, with her dating black men, right? And having to recognize that, okay, like, black men, where have you made black women feel like they're nothing, right? Where have you made black women feel like they're not desirable, they're not beautiful, right? And where can you look at it like black women are not the problem? Black men, when are we going to actually identify where are mental health issues? Where are we identifying wounds, right? Because even when that black man steps out of his race, if he is not mentally and emotionally sane, he's still going to even treat that woman, right, that is not black, bad, right? So it's really having to recognize, like, if we come together as black and brown women, we can hold something accountable. That has nothing to do with us, right? And this is me being a Blaxican, a black Mexican, a brown girl that's morena as hell, that still feels like, dang, what have I done to black males, right? But at the same time, I don't feel that pretty towards my brown males, right? So it's just kind of navigating, like, where's it's really this deep psychology within it, and yeah, and colorism and lack of self-love, you know. So that was my little thing to it.
Thank you, Helena. Very well said. Okay, we're gonna wrap it up with one last question, the most important question of all before we head into Q&A. What does being a homegirl mean to you? And Mel, I'm gonna start with you. So what does being a homegirl mean to you?
A homegirl means to me that you can come over to my house and have a carne asada, or like it means being able to like mess around, like act like primas and cousins. You get me? That's a homegirl to me. Like just like being laid back and having a good time. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, to touch on that, I would say a homegirl is someone who I can get together with and be myself with. I don't have a fear of being judged or it's just someone that I feel comfortable with. I can be vulnerable with. Someone who supports me, I support them. And yeah, especially what she touched on too. Someone who can come over and like we just have a good time. Yeah.
Homegirls to me, where the conversation takes like 50 different avenues, where it's like, girl, guess what happened? Then it gets real deep. Then it's like, where do we get to this? And then you support me with my endeavors. I support you, and we eat food. We eat food. That's what makes to me, you know?
So
Yes.
for me, I feel like a homegirl is exactly what we're showing right now. I feel like it's having those conversations, creating those spaces, and being present for each other, but most of all, supporting each other. So I feel like the more that we do this, the more we'll be all about homegirls supporting homegirls and really become a proof of concept for not just our peers, but for the youth, because I do feel like the youth needs to see these things, and that's why I'm driving this mission.
Period. Thank you, Sonya.
So, thank you, beautiful women.
Thank you,
I want to
Toni.
open up to our lovely, intimate audience. If you have any questions for the panelists, for Sonya, myself, for our founder, Abigail Lopez-Bird, if you have any questions at all, now is the time. And we don't have a mic, but I'll pass you an invisible mic if it makes you feel better.
I have a question. So my question is, what is your favorite self-care routine or like task or like how do you celebrate yourself?
Good question. Good question.
Love that. How do you celebrate yourself?
I go get some food.
What's your
Like,
meal?
huh?
Yeah, what you
What's
eating
your
though?
comfort meal?
My comfort meal? Oh man, I like everything. I really like Japanese food though. Like, if I'm feeling good, like I'm gonna go get some food. Or I'll just hang out with my dog. I'll go to the park. But yeah, I would definitely say I celebrate myself through just like being outside. Like I want to have a good meal. I'm feeling good. I want to be around people. Yeah, that's my go-to.
Yeah. You said favorite, like, what do you do? Self-care?
Yeah, like a favorite self-care routine.
Routine. To like celebrate myself? Well, if it's not like a margarita, it's like it's shopping, or just pampering yourself, making yourself feel, beautiful. Whether that's getting your nails done. I don't have my nails done now, but just things like that, like makeup or stuff like that. But yeah.
And working on a routine, right? I think it varies, but I think lately my Thursdays have been like beautiful for me. 12, I go to my therapist, right? 1, I have a walking class, right? I think that's what it is for me, right? I think I've been really indulging in therapy for like the past, like on 2 years now, once we hit the summer. And really that has been my form of self-care. Honestly, I think I struggle with taking care of myself. I think it's something in me lately to even tell that to people. I feel they just see like, oh, you know my little Jay on Instagram, like, oh, she's doing this or she's doing that. It's like, girl, I'm unorganized. I be depressed, and I was telling one of our audience members, right, that I used to feel that my worth was really aligned to my community organizing and my art. Started to recognize that it was not, right? Because it left me feeling empty. And now to really get everything out, I have to vent out. I have to talk. I have to go to therapy. I have to talk to my mom, right? Friends that understand me. So that I can actually feel inspired to write poetry, right? So that's my self-care and being in nature.
That was an excellent question.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I love how you worded it because I feel like self-care is so like it could be like so I love that phrase of like how do you celebrate yourself. I love that. Does anybody else have any other questions before we close out? It could be anything.
I have a comment. great job to you all. And I love the conversation, so thank you too. Thank you. I was at a high school yesterday having this exact conversation at Compton Early College. And we were talking about womanhood and race, the intersection. And seniors at the high school, and this conversation keeps coming up about race, sisterhood, and womanhood. So I just want to applaud you all for coming up here and being transparent and starting the dialogue, because it is one that really impacts the way we all interact with each other and the way we see ourselves. And just for transparency, I'm a therapist at a university. And so when I'm listening to even my clients, it is, and I'm at a PWI, and so I'm the only Black therapist there. And so a lot of the students of color feel more comfortable sharing things about their experience as a person that is of color. And is a lot of the issues that I'm seeing are mostly with our young women, or those who identify as young women, and their race or ethnicity, and how it shows up. Even though we're the global majority, right? How they are treated as a minority, not only from by race, but by gender. And so I really applaud you all for taking the time out to actually have this conversation. And I hope a lot of the young people are watching it or have access to it, because this was a very beautiful conversation.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you for your work.
And that's my homegirl right there.
If I can just add something, for those of y'all that don't know me, my name is Abigail Lopez-Brett. I'm the founder, executive director here at Color Compton. You know, y'all are really standing on my dream. I say it all the time. Like, these floors were put down by my husband. I think Mel helped paint.
Yeah, I
some of
painted
these
this
walls.
wall. Yeah.
It was all literally a dream, and like me yearning for that creative and cultural space. I think as a young brown girl growing up in Compton, so many of my mentors were Black women, brown women, right? Like in school, it was all, I had a lot of Black female teachers. I went to a predominantly Black church, so all of my mentors were like, you know, like the mothers in the church, you know. But then my grandma, my mom, my great-grandma, I was very privileged enough to grow up with two of my great-grandparents. So my identity was always that intersection, right? And I always tell Toni, like now as a mom, 2, 3 Black and brown little girls, I'm constantly thinking about how am I instilling these values into my little girls? How do I make sure that they feel seen, that they feel beautiful, that they feel acknowledged as Black, as brown little girls, and really develop a sense of like love, right? And that they feel seen. And so this just makes me so happy on multiple levels, not just like me as a young girl growing up in Compton, but also like as a mom. And I just want to give a huge shout out to Toni for putting this together. Toni was like, this is what we're going to do, and I feel like she like understands the vision and the mission and the impact of holding space in spaces like Color Compton, and I just thank you for curating such an amazing event. And the whole team, right, like we have more Black skinned folks here, like brown girls, and I think it's just so important to be able to see each other, have these conversations, because sometimes we don't talk about it, right? And going back, I think one of y'all made a comment that we need to talk about the differences, because then that's how we get to actually building coalition. So many times we're fighting, well, what about me? What about this? And what about this? And it's just like, if we really understand and peel back the layers of where we are different, we can also see where we are similar and really build like sustainable coalition, not a superficial coalition. And so I just want to thank all of you for all the amazing work. Thank you for sharing space. And I know Sonya is also going to share some things.
Before that, thank you, Abby.
Yeah.
Abby's my favorite.
Yeah.
I just love Abby
She's
so
so
much.
nice.
That's the first time I'm like actually like my boss. But I just want to shout out. Is that Omi? Happy birthday, Omi!
Thank you.
So I want to shout out to our honorary homegirl Marco, because Marco, like shout out to all of the men who like support and uplift their women around them. Like y'all are really like part of the foundation. So just thank you to the men who came into this space. And yeah, I'll let Sonya take it away from here.
Yes, I definitely want to say thank you, Abby, for creating this space. Like, this is everything for us. We don't have a lot of spaces that really we can feel comfortable, have like a safe space amongst homegirls and have these conversations. That's needed. So I definitely want to say thank you for that. Thank you, Color Compton, everybody involved. Y'all did an amazing job putting it together. Thank you, Toni, for everything. You know, like, this is, yeah, like, we talk about things like this every day, and like, to really see it into fruition is amazing. And I definitely want to say thank you to Mel, Brandy, and Ciara. You, like, I'm getting emotional thinking about it, because it's like, y'all are not just showing up this month. Y'all show up every day, and like, y'all put on for homegirls, and like, I take that stuff serious. You know what I'm saying? Like, for the fact that I'm not even from here, and then I could reach out and be like, hey, I want y'all to do this, and y'all like, I got you. Like, that's what it's about to me, and that's how we pay it forward. So today, this is about honoring y'all. So here's y'all honorary certificates of leadership.
Oh, thank you. Thank
And
you.
I want to let y'all know that even though y'all said it's times that y'all don't feel seen, y'all don't feel heard, or y'all feel overlooked, this is y'all day. And remember y'all value and y'all power.
Thank you.
And I'm gonna do a reverse Uno because I got one for
Oh my
Sonya.
God.
I got one for Sonya. Sonya and I have known each other for how long? 2-3 years?
Yeah, but it feels like forever.
It feels like forever.
That's
Like,
crazy.
Sonya's just like the true embodiment of a homegirl, and like of everything that you would hope that you would have in sisterhood. I have a little sister, she's 5 years old, but I always yearned for that like kinship with someone closer to my age, and I feel like you're like the closest thing that I could ever have to like a sister. And you're always giving other people their flowers. Like, you're always being that support for other people. And I just want to let you know. I mean, you know this on the daily, but I will always be here to support you in your endeavors. So I wanted to give you your flowers. Okay, thank you. I really hope you enjoyed it.